All right, today's going to be a fun one. So, Joe, I think we're going to talk today about the agentic AI as your marketing stack versus the full suite agency. Which is better and which one's right for you? All right, so I'll give a little background about the traditional AI agency, and then we can talk about kind of how this has evolved into how AI can do this too. So traditionally, if you're a company and needed to, get a really good website, you needed to build content, you wanted to run some paid ads, you wanted, some SEO work done, you wanted some branding and some brand voice, you wanted social media to be taken care of. There are an endlessly number of agencies, marketing agencies, that will own all those functions for you. And the reason why their pitch, I guess, and the reason why they're so good is because they are the same people managing all that. So the people that are running your ads are the same people that are writing your website content. They're the same people writing your social media content. So the idea of the voice of the company and the brand being consistent over there, over the like your entire digital landscape is within one place, within one agency. So that's kind of always been the reason why brands like gravitated towards the agencies. We could talk about some of the reasons why it might not be as good. They're quite expensive. There's a lot of kind of nuance and silos in those agencies. But I mean, that's the traditional, reason why companies love using full suite marketing agencies. I'd love, Joe, to quick, 2-minute version, the counter. Like, what is the AI version of that, and why is that good as well?
Yeah. So ChatRank and others are starting to build these tools where we're using agents to tackle more and more parts of that marketing suite. So that's not just the actual blog content, but your socials and all sorts of different aspects of how you're presenting yourself online. So there's a lot of things that these AI tools can do that really are differentiated and helpful when you're looking to build out your brand online. So they're able to run sort of all the time in the background. So you can for example, what our tool does will scan your website, make sure that your brand is consistent. The way that you're talking about your brand is consistent across your website. They're also like very good at they're able to spend a lot of time to do things like researching and learning from you. So one of the challenges with an agency, right, is that they need to get in your head and sort of understand what's going on within your brand. Whereas if you are sitting there and you're directing a tool, an AI tool that's able to really do its own research and learn a lot, and then use the inputs from you, you can get that up and running like with a genuine voice from you much more quickly. So there's a lot of benefits to using the software versions via these AI agents, where you're able to really quickly take control and drive a large amount of progress across your brand.
I think one point you mentioned there, which I like, is the messaging side of things. There's this brain dump that has to happen to an agency.
Yeah.
Now, some agencies I've seen are really good at this, but I've been in these meetings at a decent sized software company where we were meeting with a marketing agency, and it was very clear that the CEO and the CTO thought we were one thing, sales thought we were something completely different, and marketing thought we were something completely different. And they're
Yeah.
going to the marketing agency and saying like, "Here's our brand," and they're like, like okay, this is what they do really well. They're really good at taking this
Yeah.
information, making you feel really good about it. It's explaining how we can make this work, and then like kind of molding that together into what they think really matters, and kind of using what they feel will be the best way to get you new sales. The whole point of marketing is to get you like more money, more sales, etc. It should be leading towards growth. And so I think that's what the agency does really well, and they do that with people. And I think that today, a lot of businesses still love the idea of being able to call Susie, whatever, like, hey, like, I have this new thing, or we have this new sales slide deck we built last week. Can I send it to you? This is really part of our new brand imaging and things like
Yeah.
that. And so I think that is really nice and comforting for a lot of people to know that a human is there to kind of hear that brain dump, understand them, know their brand super well, and kind of be that outside voice that's not in the day to day every single day, getting that information out there. Now, I think the AI does this really well as well. So I think there's a count to that point even too, which is that
Yeah.
the AI does this extremely well. And so I think just like what will be fun to kind of rip into a little bit is like how can an AI agent or like a suite of agents or just an AI software tool in general kind of own a website with blog content and paid and social and everything else? Like how does that work, and how is that like brain dump happening?
Yeah. I'll also double click on one of the things you said too, which is like uh, the process. Oftentimes, that onboarding process. and I've been on both sides of this conversation, can be very valuable for a very valuable part of the agency discussion, which is like in order to get the agency live and running, you need to be going through the exercise of sort of defining like what is our brand and what are our goals, and a lot of times that like exercise happens while you're onboarding an agency, and helps both like introspect and reflect and actually go through those steps of defining what is actually happening there. So I think that one of the counterpoints and sort of one of the negative of some of the implementations on AI agents, AI agent deployments is if you're kind of skipping some of those steps and you're like forgetting to actually go through, you sort of expect to press go and have it just run sort of automatically. We could these tools can do a best effort, but ultimately there is some value in that back and forth exchange and understanding how to define your brand and how to like actually what are you doing, what are your goals, and not just sort of replaying what's on your website already, but like how do you actually define where you want to be, what your priorities are, who your key customers are, key segments, all these things. So a lot of times those things are basically codified in agencies as like their onboarding playbook documents or something like that, right? Like what do you do when you sign a new customer and start onboarding them? And you'll have a playbook of sort of these steps you go through. And first we have this conversation, we dig into their brand identity, we get a bunch of key stakeholders to come in and like give what they think the brand identity is. Like you said, there's like oftentimes differing opinions, and you sort of figure out from that. So the a failure bit here that you can have with these tools, with these AI tools, is if you just kind of skip all that and you end up basically with a tool that just reflects what your brand currently is, again, louder in like a different channel. So that's like if you just completely remove the effort and the thinking from it, then you're not going to get a very good answer, a very good product in the end, like a very good representation of your brand. But absolutely, like if you can leverage both of those, you can leverage the ability for these AI tools to do so much work for you and really be diligent and consistent across the board. Then that's like that's the best of both worlds, right? Where you're actually going through, doing the definition, thinking through these things, but then using these tools to effectively like scale that brand out.
Yeah, I was laughing because I can't tell you how many times we've talked to customers, and I was guilty of this before I knew what I was doing, of just saying, "Hey Claude, like research my brand and then write my blog," or
Yeah,
like it's like
yeah,
like they're going to go out there and see things that they're already out there, interpret them how they want to interpret them, and then like go. Then you want them to just like now reproduce content for your
yeah,
brand and for your blog. Like, that doesn't work. Like, you need to give them the feedback, understanding who you are, what you're doing, why that matters, why they should care about that, and like what is different than what they might be able to see out there. The whole
yeah,
point of you going after this new thing is because the AI doesn't understand what you want to do there. It doesn't really get it. And so I can't tell you how many times people are like, just research my brand and then do this. Like
yeah,
that's bad prompting, and that's not going to really work very well for AI. And so I think on the agency side, like they at least know that they know not to make assumptions or to kind of dig in and learn more about what they could be or should be doing with your brand before they go out and like actually put pen on paper. Like that is
yeah,
something that is quite good about how humans know how to think about these things, and sometimes AI will just go off and do things without really like double checking.
yeah,
So I think this is why I always tell people that you're prompting AI. It's like a total sidebar, but like always say, "Do you have any questions for me?" Like basically when you finish your prompt, like before you take this action, do you have any questions for me? And you'd be surprised. They always have questions, and they're always really good, like clarifying things that will help them understand a little bit more about what you're doing.
yeah. Maybe we could also to define is it we're using agentic, a lot of these words that are like very similar. And I think it's not always clear to folks like what the difference is between using ChatGPT or Claude or something directly versus like what people will say is like an agentic framework, like ChatRank marketing suite, things like that. Um, so yeah, like some of the big differences, right, between just using ChatGPT directly and using one of these frameworks like ChatRank is effectively what we were just saying of like all of the internal knowledge and playbooks that an agency would have in place, right? Like the difference between I mean, we've all seen this when you ask ChatGPT and you get like, if you ask it like twice, you'll get slightly different answers. And, it's not necessarily taking a larger picture into consideration. So if you say, hey, write a blog post for me, it's not necessarily like considering all of your existing blog posts and sort of the strategy that you have and the brand direction that you have and, sort of the knowledge that you have internally and content cannibalization, all these sorts of other things that you might, if you're working in an agency, if you're an employee in the agency who's tasked with sort of writing content for blog, you're going to have all these resources and definitions around you. And so similar to just like striking out on your, sort of on your own, if you're not very well informed about what you're doing, and trying to write your own content, sort of build your own brand directly, or, sort of use AI tools directly, like using ChatGPT and things like that. What these frameworks will build, these like agentic frameworks, is, they're using AI behind the scenes. So they're using a lot of the same core technologies, but they're building around it this whole ecosystem of understandings and workflows and like how to actually build these things at scale. So yeah, when folks say agentic, usually just means it's like a lot of these little pieces of AI like working together to create like a broader structure, a broader picture. Like so, rather than just a bunch of small prompts in ChatGPT, it's like a whole software system that defines and uses these AI tools to accomplish the goals.
Yeah, I'm laughing because there is this notion of like, oh, it's agentic. Oh, it's like it's agents. Like I got to use my agent, and like I don't think really people really understand like why that can be powerful. So
Yeah.
it has never been easier if you want to, and again, to take some technical skill. I'm not saying it is easy, but it's never been easier to go call it, quote unquote build an agent, like go build an AI agent to do a task or do something for you. Read my email, like whatever it might be. Like people can go build agents. OpenClaw made this really, high profile. OpenAI scooped them up pretty quickly and like brought them in house. Like, there is this idea of if you want to commit some time, watch a couple YouTube videos, you can probably go out and like build yourself an agent. So that is like the reality of this. But most of those are garbage. They don't do anything valuable or interesting because they're not trained or like they're not doing the things that actually like add value to what the task you're trying to do. So we talk a lot here at ChatRank about the job to be done and how we can best do that. And is AI or an agent the best thing to do for that? And so I think oftentimes as humans, like in an agency, for example, you'll always think about, okay, this team is going to own this task because they're really good at this thing. They have this skill. They're really good at that. They know how to think critically about this idea and they can like, accomplish this task really well. We'll give this to them. And then this team gets this and this team gets this because, they are really good at these different things. And we can kind of assign things out, do the research, figure out things and go execute on our plans. Humans are, there's flaws in that for sure. There's a lot of like dependencies and, like breaking points of those workflows, call it, for humans to be doing tech like things. But I'd say agents are really good at the transitions and getting the thing done. But if they're not told what to do or that the job to be done and explained really well with good, core ground data, like with core information, with core prompting, heuristics, whatever you might be, they're kind of useless. And so I think this is like the big thing that I think our people are potentially getting wrong. We've seen, not going to name names, but quite a few competitors out there that have built these agents to like do the full AI marketing suite, the kind of things we're describing here, and they're garbage. Like they don't do the job, which is to get your brand to sell more widgets or like go get more visible or like sell more customers, get more users, etc. And so this is the thing where I've always struggled with and kind of understood is like an agency will probably figure that out pretty well. It might be expensive and take a long time. An agent could be much more efficient at doing that. But at the same time, if not trained well or given good instructions or explained what to do or how like what that job to be done is, they're really bad. They're kind of just like
Yeah.
pointless. So I wanted to, I'd love your opinion or take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's this. We've all had the experience of AI being blatantly wrong about something, but extremely confident, and then you call it out. It's like, yeah, my bad. I was, you're right to call that out. You're right. Where there's a lot of situations in which these AI tools can be highly confident, and if you're not aware of what's going on, sound very correct or subtly incorrect, in a way that's sort of harder to detect. That can be very problematic. So if you're having the AI sort of fully AI defining absolutely everything, without anyone sort of tweaking, and I mean, that's one of the benefits of a software company owning it, is that they're looking at how it's working over time and actually tweaking and monitoring over time. Then yeah, you can have these whether they're subtle and small or just like blatantly incorrect things sort of start to multiply. So if your entire strategy is based off of AI, which is maybe making the wrong calls and making the wrong decisions, without any insight, and again, so if you're building it on your own, then there's no one, you're not having a bunch of companies already sort of using this tool and vetting it and validating it for you and improving over time. you're just first time ever running on your product. And so the articles might look good and, they might sound decent enough, but yeah, it can cause a lot of problems, right? If you have these sorts of errors multiplying over time, and then even the strategy can be just like fundamentally unsound, where you're producing things that seem good enough or seem reasonable enough, but you're not following the practices that are actually shown to improve your visibility and your ranking or whatever your core metrics are. So yeah, there's a lot of things we've done on sort of the core components that go into this, but these frameworks and these agentic frameworks can be terrifically valuable in making sure that the AIs are working in a direction that's actually going to be beneficial for your brand. Like you said, they can move very fast, so it's dangerous when you have something that can move very fast and it's uncontrolled, right? Because you can go very fast in the wrong direction. But right,
Yeah.
having that sort of bumper lines, on the bowling pin, like having those guardrails to make sure that it's sort of going in the right direction and that you're sort of using genuine best practices is very important. Yeah.
So I'm curious. So you can pretend that I'm I don't know, a software tech founder, or I'm like a local coffee shop or a local pizzeria. Like you take your pick here. Like, tell me why I shouldn't go hire the full suite marketing agency, and instead should go after this, they call it agentic AI marketing suite.
Yeah.
Whether it's ChatRank or somebody else, but just explain why I should
Yeah.
go with you instead of the agency calling on me.
Yeah. I think in the case of in both of these, you have a situation where you're likely going to have an individual or small number of people who deeply understand the core concepts of the brand. The there's certainly some value in sort of what we were discussing earlier around sort of that definition, like what actually differentiates you, what makes you valuable. And there are certainly tools, on the AI, on the agent side, on the AI side, that can help you, like ChatRank, for defining what that brand is, sort of collaboratively with the tools. That's a very important piece to get. So if you skip that part and just go straight to just using AI tools blindly, I mean, a lot of founders have less of a good idea than I think they would like to think of, like what their brand means, not just to themselves emotionally, but it actually means what their customers actually like think about and care about and what resonates with them. And the same thing with like coffee shops or food, right? Any of these sort of brick and mortar type businesses. Why is someone going into your place versus a Starbucks down the street or something like that? What's the thing that's resonating with the user or with the customer in this case? So those steps are really important to not skip, right? So whether you're working with an AI tool or with an agency, sort of regardless, you want to make sure that you are defining that. Once you have that in place, though, that like and this is where there's forks on the agency side, right? And so if you're a founder of a coffee shop, you're probably not going to spring for the extremely high price agency. So you might also skip this step and sort of rush into the press and rush into sort of content generation. I think that's where people can really suffer and not execute well, is you're spending a bunch of money on producing and scaling content around a concept that doesn't actually mean anything to your users or to your base. So that's a failure in both AI and agencies, but it's agencies. AI, the problem is you can produce a lot of content very quickly, relatively cheaply, and then it's not aligned and you're sort of going the wrong direction. Agencies, you can spend a lot of money very quickly, and sort of not really go anywhere with them. So that's like a typical failure you'll see with founders or small shops like that, is they don't have a very good, well-defined direction, and then they're working with a sort of a price, like a low price point agency or someone who's going to really spend a relatively speaking, low price, so still spend a lot of money for the brand, and not really move them in a direction that has sort of meaningful ROI, because the agency understands less than you do, and if you don't even understand what direction you're going in, that can be a really bad place to go. But if you have that defined, right, with software, you can be much more efficient at, and especially in these cases of startups or coffee shops or sort of smaller operations. There's oftentimes a lot of conflicting information or poor information around a brand. So having something like AI that you can leverage to really execute quickly and move quickly, make sure that you're multi-channel. You're not just focusing and being sort of cost effective and just doing one channel on like your own blog, but making sure that you're doing press and socials and all these sorts of different surface areas, and being consistent, going back and updating your existing page content, that you're just going to get a lot more bang for your buck on the AI side. So this is where I think, on the AI agency side, if you're using an AI agentic AI framework that really does tackle all these problems, then you can very quickly get to the position where you understand your brand well, you're in the control seat, you're able to direct it in the direction that you want to go to, and you're able to very quickly get a bunch of content and sort of produce a brand image at a broader scale that's really aligned with where you actually want to go, what your customers care about, and sort of, and especially as a founder, you're probably going to pivot again. So like having that control and being in that driver's seat is very, very valuable. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fun to think about this from like lots of different perspectives. I think you're right. When you do have these silo teams, even inside a single agency, it can be hard to be consistent. It can be hard to, keep things fully aligned. And we'll talk in a second. Actually, I want to hear your thoughts on this about the reason why, especially the AI crawlers and AI tools and these model companies love consistency across different touch points. Like what the more like we can dive into more technical weeds of why that is. There's authority signaling from customer reviews and socials and third party mentions and your own brand, like why all that kind of needs to say the same thing and could be cohesive. Like AI expects that and really, really rewards that as like, okay, we know you are this thing. Like I can tell you, like the more specific and exact you are, like the AI really loves that. 'Cause like, okay, you are just like you bleed this thing, and so that's like the kind of the winner there. So I've always talked about this example. There's a blog called Seed Oil Scout, where all they do is just find restaurants that don't use seed oils. They only use like olive oil or animal fats in their cooking, and like they're just the experts at this. The blog is, I don't know, not that big. It's not like a massive production, but like they're the defined like entity that knows this thing really well. And so AI trusts them fully with like, okay, if you say this is
Yeah.
good, I trust you because everything about you says that like you are the best at this one thing. And, like knowing which restaurants don't use seed oils. And so that's kind of like a thing I always think about is just how do you like really own your brand? I've seen it in a different way, kind of not in a negative sense, but like it's very clearly not aligned where it could be really bad. So I don't know. I personally love like these like funny corporate troll accounts. Like Wendy's is like really good at like have a great Twitter. They just like troll people. Like they're really they just like love they just a really fun, hilarious brand on like socials for like Wendy's does love this. They're just like they'll just
Hmm.
like I don't know, they'll tweet at people, they'll do stuff. It's kind of completely like silly and ridiculous, but also like they're selling I don't know hamburgers and fries at like a fast food joint. Like you go into a Wendy's and you sort of get that playfulness. Yeah, it's named after the daughter. Like it's kind of you get that, but it's not like fully there. Like their Twitter like image is not exactly the image you get when you walk into a Wendy's. It's sort of there, but it's not like fully there. Like I think if you're going to be, I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure I'm highly confident, let's say, that their social media team is just completely different from like their
Hmm.
in restaurant branding. What
Hmm.
colors are the people going to wear? What are the soda machines going to look like? Kind of thing. Like I'm sure those are
Yeah.
not connected in
Yeah.
any way, and you can sort of tell. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily a negative thing. It's not a horrible thing, but it's like it's misaligned in my mind. Like I always think
Yeah.
of like Wendy's
Yeah.
Twitter as very different than Wendy's like
Yeah.
restaurants.
Yeah.
And so that really matters if you're a small business, if you are a medical
Yeah.
practice,
Yeah.
if you are a software company, like you can't afford to have that like differentiation. So if you are a
Right.
medical practice and you're going to claim to be the world's best surgeon at this one specific procedure, you better have a pretty professional website and a really, really strong, external system like a brand mentions that like are from these medical journals and not from
Yeah.
like joke sites. I don't know. There should be like some sort of consistency in
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
brand. And so like talk to me a little bit more about the reason why that matters so much for
Yeah.
AI
Yeah.
specifically, and how that can be potentially go wrong if it's not well done.
Yeah. I'll say in two there's two phases, right? And yeah, we talk about this. We've talked about this a lot and have some literature on our website or as well around sort of fundamentally how these AI search tools work. And there's simplifying a bit, but there's like two major parts. There's the offline like model, which is sort of the understanding that the AI tool has of the world sort of statically. It's been defined, and OpenAI and these others have spent billions of dollars to train these models and just get them to this base state that they are in. And then on top of that, they're ingesting all this information live, sort of understanding from articles and news sources and things like that, additional information that they use to keep kind of catch up and keep up to date, as well as to pull like more nuanced data and more relevant, up to date data than they might have in their base data. At that base level, there's literally this thing called like attention heads, where there's like as you're looking at literally the way that these models are trained, there's like basically they're building these like neural connections between concepts, and if you're in the same sort of window of text and and you're mentioned alongside with other concepts, like literally that's training and reinforcing like these kind of neurons within the system of these associations between concepts. And then that goes both ways. So it's both like training as it's ingesting the content and learning, but then also like when it's producing the data, it's using these same neurons to produce the next, it's called the next token, the next piece of text. So when it's writing a piece of text to the user and it's explaining something, it's literally using this same underlying neural like pathways of like associations between things. So like, you know, the Mickey Mouse and Disney thing, right? The word Disney and Mickey Mouse and mouse probably have very strong like neurons basically connecting them, simplifying a little bit effectively, right? And so if you are over and over again, you know, if like Wendy's, like you're saying, like it's a little confusing, right? Like, so they can still build both these neurons in parallel, but it's way better if they're building a very strong neural connectivity between these two concepts. And so this is for the training data. So these are these things that happen, you know, every, you know, 6 months to 2 years or so, depending on the lab. But if you can be representing your brand consistently across the internet, where, you know, the key concepts that you care about are literally in like the same sentences and the same, you know, paragraphs and pages, with the core concepts, yeah, with your brand and with the core concepts that you want to represent. That's like, it's every single time it's seeing that, it's reinforcing these neurons in the head of these AI tools. So yeah, so literally when it's going and it's explaining something, if it uses one of these keywords, it will make it more likely for it to use your name in that word. Literally just mathematically, it will make it more likely to say, mention your name and talk about you. Regardless of if it's pulling information from a website that it, you know, talks about your competitor, you will be boosted in that. So that's one way we're just like being consistent is it's like, yeah, it's like repetition. It's you're playing piano and over again, you're building these neural pathways and like you're reinforcing concepts. So that's super important for the offline, for the model training. And then also just in the way that it's referencing content, from websites, like when, you know, when you look in ChatGPT or Google or something, it's going to go and it's going to, you know, read a bunch of articles. That consistency will be very important for like what articles the search engine recommends, and then also how it interprets the data. And so having consistency in the way that your brand's represented will make it more likely that your brand is referenced as a source for that data if that data is sort of overlapping with the concept. So if you're looking for, you know, AI marketing tools, and, you know, we want to have ChatRank be highly associated there, so that if it's looking for information about this system, you know, about the concepts here, that it will trust us. So that's that. When you have those terms, it's similar. Like a lot of these are trained systems. It's similar that it'll be more likely to recommend you if your brand is consistent in the live search results. And then if you get 10 search results back, and they all say ChatRank is the best, you know, AI marketing tool, blah, 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 for these reasons, that's great. If they're all aligned, say, oh, it's, you know, it's the best, you know, value for dollar, and it's this really strong tool, and it's going to get you great results. However, if you have mixed results in there, complex, you know, contradicting information, it'll make the AI tool just naturally, as it would with a person kind of confused and inconsistent and sort of not exactly sure what to represent to the user. So even like every single way along that list, being consistent in what you're representing, what your features are, what your capabilities are, what you're good at, what your, you know, key users are, and your brand voice, like you said, that example with Wendy's is really important. Like what your culture is, all that, super important. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that it really is super aligned to this unifying voice. And so I liked your positioning of like how these models have been trained from a foundational
Yeah.
level, because that really is, that matters so much. And so as you are thinking about your brand, it really needs to be consistent across all the different points of information that are feeding, you know, humans and or these AI crawlers that are learning more about your brand. And so whether you're doing that, again, when you're building a brand or a website or whatever for your all your digital presence, it needs to be obviously sympathetic and, you know, interesting to humans, so they want to click on you and learn more and, you know, like go to your coffee shop or go to your website for your software company. But it also needs to like really signal strongly to these LLMs and to these different providers that you are the best at this thing. And it's like it always go back. I mean, this is like SEO 101, but like having good anchor text on your backlinks to your website is like so important. So it says like best AI tools and links to ChatRank's website. Like that is like ChatRank.ai is the backlink from a really strong GEO tool like anchor text. Like that tells
Yeah.
Google, traditional search, call it, like this is a high association between these two things. So the
Yeah.
same concept applies. Like, you're just trying to inform them what you do really well, so you can get credit for that. Like, that's like how you're building your quote unquote authority over time with this. Um,
And I'll touch like really quick on like why I think this is a good example of why agents, I mean, are particularly good at this kind of thing is like when you're talking about brand consistency, which is so important, like the literally making sure like with AI tools, right? It's much easier to have them do these very long, sort of arduous tasks for long periods of time. So if you want to go out and like literally check every single time your brand is mentioned or your competitors are mentioned and like how the text surrounding that specific quote, how it's, relating to your brand, is it aligned with your key brand voice and the way that you want to be represented. So not just your blogs on your post, but like on your blog page, but like all of your website plus all internet articles like talking about you or all social mentions or anything like that. That's a huge undertaking. So agents can do that pretty well and go find those, analyze them, say, is this up to date with my latest and greatest spec that the founder has written around like exactly how I want to be represented online. Are the products that are being mentioned accurate? Are the reviews on the review sites? Are they promoting the features that I care about? Do we have gaps there? Maybe we need new reviews. Maybe we need new social mentions. It's a tremendous amount of work. So it's very, very hard to do. And I think this is something where it's, it's not replacing human labor. Like, maybe some very, very expensive, top level, companies were actually having people read every single article. But for the most part, the agencies will also be using these AI tools. This is something where, where you're adding and unlocking like a new capability where you're having these AI tools just scan every single thing, every single mention, and just make sure it's aligned. So yeah,
yeah.
it's like kind of impossible for people to do.
It redefines like the idea of these social listening tools, or like you can see listening tools in
Yeah.
general about what your brand is, who they are, what they're associated with. It's all part of this.
Yeah.
We'll dive into this much more deeply, I'm sure, in future episodes, because I think this is just such an interesting topic around like why these agents are really good at this thing. But so to close it out, I just wanted to ask you like a couple things here quickly. But like, just if you are a small to medium sized business they can't afford the agency. So let's just take the agency out of play here. Like
Yeah.
you can maybe afford the cheap one, which you mentioned before, but they're not really right for you either. Like so, you want to go after like and tackle this agentic world. So if you're a small or medium sized business looking to bring in a agentic system to help you with marketing, what should you look for, and what are the things you should be focusing on first?
Do you want to take a stab at this? We
Sure.
should cut this part
Um,
out.
yeah, no, so it's good. So I think like for me, I think when you are looking at this topic in general, like you need to be thinking about like first, like what am I good at and what is my brand really good at? Like have a little introspection to learn like to think about what are we really good at doing and what do we want our brand to be? The same thing you do with a branding agency or like a brand in general. Like you want to be like, what is that thing that brand does really well? What does our brand do really well? So in this case, I'm a software company and or I'm a founder. What is our vision? What are we trying to do? And dump that, feed that into some sort of AI model you're going to be using or some sort of tool you're going to be using, so they have some ground truth about you and your brand and whatever it is. We call it the fact sheet, the chat rank, but like, what is that information? And then go like have the AI agents or whatever tool you're using. They should be coming to you and telling you what to do. You should not have to be thinking, oh, I need to be doing more press. I need to be doing more of this. Like the agent should be telling you, like, okay, you are really deficient or have a huge gap in your content, or you have a huge miss on like these external brand mentions. We need to be going after this, and here's what we can do. Like the AI is really good at, like I said, scanning, identifying your digital presence, seeing what's working, what's not working for you, and recommending things to you. Like those are the most important things you should be thinking about as a brand that's going after this new idea of, okay, I'm going to use these agentic marketing systems. Like what does that mean? Well, I need to feed it the information and go tell me what to. They should be telling me what to do. Those are like the core things it should be focused on, no matter what brand or company you're working with.
Yeah, and I think it's a good sign that there's a deficit in either the agency or the agentic platform that you're using if any of those steps are not taken. If you're not starting by analyzing not what your current brand is, but actually where you want to be going and what your goals are. There's a lot of times you're coming to these tools because you have a need, you have a desire to improve your brand or shift your brand in some way. So if it's just reflecting what you currently are, then that's a huge miss.
Yeah, exactly. We have customers come to us all the time with exactly this. They say like, okay, I need to improve my brand. Well, like, well, what is your brand? oh, well, it's this, and this. Like, no, that's not going to work. Like, AI doesn't think like that. AI needs to know what your brand is and be really like, specific and consistent about it. And so you can do multiple things. That's fine. Like you can do, like have different areas, but you should be like very clear. These are the areas I work on. Not that we are these things. It's like you are this kind of company and we do these things. That's different than we are three different things. And
Yeah.
so I think that consistency and that understanding of who you are, what your brand, want your brand to be is really valuable. And I think that is like the first step you should be taking with anybody you work with, whether it's an agency or agent like AI, to know that is like the most important foundational thing you can do to get started and have success right off the bat. Different tools will offer different things. I mean, ChatRank is really good at a lot of these things as well. And so this idea of the full AI marketing suite is becoming more of a reality for businesses that probably couldn't afford it. We talk about this a lot, and this is what I want to close with is um, it's never before been possible for a local coffee shop to compete with Starbucks. Um, you can't really compete with them on like, paid ads, commercials on TV and everything else that they're doing from their philanthropy, whatever else. Like Starbucks is Starbucks. And actually, I like Starbucks. I'm not trying to pick on them, but like there is like the idea of the big bad corporate versus like the local mom and pop Main Street. Like the local mom and pop coffee shop had to like work so hard and be like so consistent with like their Instagram and their like sponsoring a little league team and like doing all these things just to like try to like scrape by and make it and like compete against Starbucks who's driving all this traffic because of what they can do from a digital and just brand perspective. Well, now those smaller coffee shops have a chance with these AI agencies, these AI marketing suites to actually like showcase and find themselves in these lists, getting people to show up to them and getting more like visible and more traffic to their to their coffee shop. And so that's never really been true before. But now, like, you don't have to be a massive company with a massive budget to go after these things. And so, like I said, there's a lot of reasons why marketing agencies are still really good, but especially for brands that can't afford that level of like sophistication, that like high level of service that a bigger agency would give you, it really is like the AI agency is the thing you need to be doing. And I think in a future episode, Joe, we're going to talk about like what the AI agency is, what it should cost, why should it cost that much, what value is it delivering, all those kinds of things. But I don't know, any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that you nailed it. There's a lot of that value is in defining your brand and understanding what you want out of these systems. But yeah, there's a tremendous amount you can certainly do with these AI agents that sort of wasn't possible before with strictly using an agency.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Joe. This has been really fun.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right.
All right. See ya.